The school bell rang loudly through the halls of Jefferson High, and hundreds of students rushed out of their classrooms, laughing and talking. In the middle of all that noise, one girl quietly walked with her head down, holding her old, torn books close to her chest. Her name was Emma Carter. Emma was the kind of girl no one really noticed, not because she was invisible, but because people chose not to see her. She always sat in the back of the class, never talked much, and spent most of her time in the library. Her clothes were simple, her shoes worn out, and her voice soft, too soft for a world that only listened to the loud ones. But there was one person who always noticed Emma, not with kindness, but with cruelty. Jessica Miller, the most popular girl in school. She was everything Emma wasn't: rich, confident, beautiful, and surrounded by friends. Wherever Jessica went, laughter followed, and sadly, Emma was often the reason for that laughter. One cold morning, as Emma walked to her locker, Jessica and her friends were waiting nearby. Jessica smiled a fake, sweet smile and said loudly, "Oh look, it's the charity case again. How's life, Emma? Still buying your clothes from the lost and found?" Her friends laughed. Emma tried to ignore them. She opened her locker quietly, but Jessica wasn't done. She suddenly grabbed Emma's books and threw them down the hallway. Pages scattered everywhere. "Oops," Jessica said, pretending to be innocent. "My bad." Emma bent down to pick up her papers, her hands shaking. Students walked by, watching, whispering, and laughing. No one helped her. No one ever did. That night, Emma sat on her bed, holding her small diary. She wrote slowly, her tears falling on the page. Today they laughed again. Maybe one day, I'll become someone they can't laugh at. Maybe one day, I'll prove them all wrong. Her mother knocked on the door softly. "Emma, dinner's ready, honey." Emma quickly wiped her tears and closed the diary. She smiled weakly. "Coming, Mom." Her mother, Linda Carter, was a kind woman but very sick. She worked 2 jobs just to pay bills and buy Emma's school supplies. Their house was small, but it was filled with love. Still, Emma could see the tiredness in her mother's eyes every night. As they ate dinner together, Emma said quietly, "Mom, do you think people can change?" Her mother smiled gently. "Yes, sweetheart. But first, you have to believe you can change your own life." Those words stayed with Emma. The next day, she decided to sit in the front row of her science class. Her teacher, Mr. Johnson, noticed her for the first time. "Emma," he said kindly, "you've got a sharp mind. You should think about medical school someday." Emma looked surprised. "Me? A doctor?" Mr. Johnson smiled. "Why not? You have the patience and the heart for it." Those simple words lit a spark inside her. For the first time, Emma felt like someone believed in her. But as always, Jessica found a way to ruin that moment. At lunch, she walked by Emma's table and said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "A doctor? That's cute. Maybe you can fix your own life first." Her friends laughed again. Emma stayed quiet, but her eyes didn't drop this time. She looked straight at Jessica, not with anger, but with silent determination. After school, she went to the library, sat near the window, and opened her biology book. Outside, she could see Jessica and her friends getting into expensive cars, laughing without a care in the world. Inside, Emma sat alone, studying. The sunset light fell across her face. She whispered to herself, "One day, I'll wear that white coat. One day, I'll be Dr. Emma Carter." Weeks turned into months. The bullying didn't stop. Sometimes Jessica would post cruel photos of Emma online, calling her the invisible girl. Other times, she'd trip Emma in the hallway and pretend it was an accident. But something inside Emma had changed. Every insult became a reason to work harder. Every laugh made her more determined. One afternoon, Jessica spilled milk all over Emma's books in the cafeteria on purpose. The crowd laughed, phones recording. Emma froze for a moment, her hands shaking. Then, instead of crying, she calmly picked up her books and walked away. Jessica frowned. What's wrong with her? Why didn't she react? For the first time, she felt a strange discomfort, like maybe Emma wasn't as weak as she thought. That night, Emma sat by her window, watching the stars. She opened her diary again and wrote, "No matter what they say, I'll become someone great. I'll help people. I'll make Mom proud." She closed the diary, and the camera zooms in on her face, quiet but full of fire. In the distance, thunder rolled outside, as if the world itself was changing. Emma looked out the window and whispered softly, "They don't see me now, but they will." The scene fades to black. Months passed, and the seasons changed. The trees outside Jefferson High turned from green to gold, but inside, nothing changed for Emma Carter. She was still the quiet girl everyone ignored or laughed at. But something deep inside her had begun to grow. Every time she looked in the mirror, she whispered, "I can do this. I will not be like them." Her diary became her secret friend. Every night, she wrote her hopes, her pain, and her promise to one day become someone who could make a difference. At school, Mr. Johnson, her science teacher, started noticing her progress. One afternoon, after class, he said, "Emma, your test results are amazing. Have you ever thought about becoming a doctor?" Emma smiled shyly. "I'd love to, but medical school costs too much. My mom works so hard already." Mr. Johnson looked thoughtful. "There are scholarships. If you keep these grades up, you might just get one. Don't give up." Those words gave Emma strength. She started staying after school to study in the library. Sometimes she skipped lunch to finish her assignments. While others laughed in the cafeteria, Emma sat by the window with her books, dreaming of hospitals, white coats, and stethoscopes. But not everyone liked seeing her succeed. Jessica Miller and her friends still made sure to remind Emma of her place. One day, when Emma walked into class holding her biology project, a detailed chart about the human heart, Jessica smirked and said loudly, "Look everyone, Miss Nobody brought her science fair toy." The class laughed. Emma froze for a moment but then smiled softly and placed her project on the teacher's desk. Mr. Johnson clapped. "Excellent work, Emma. This is one of the best I've seen." Jessica's smile faded. For the first time, her joke didn't work. That evening, Emma returned home to find her mother coughing badly on the couch. She rushed over. "Mom, are you okay?" Her mother smiled weakly. "Just a little tired, honey. I'm fine." But Emma could see the pain in her eyes. The doctor's words from last month echoed in her mind, "Your mother's condition is serious. She needs rest." Emma sat beside her and whispered, "One day, Mom, I'll be a doctor. I'll take care of you myself." Her mother held her hand tightly. "You already take care of me, sweetheart. I'm proud of you." Tears filled Emma's eyes, but she smiled. That night, she studied even harder. She knew she had no choice. Her dreams weren't just for her anymore, they were for her mother too. Days turned into weeks, and graduation season approached. The whole school buzzed with excitement: dresses, parties, and yearbooks. Jessica, as always, was at the center of attention. She was chosen as most popular student. Her photos were everywhere, her friends cheered for her. Emma quietly sat in the corner, waiting for her name to be called. She wasn't expecting any big award, but she hoped for one thing: that her mother, sitting in the audience, would see her moment. When the principal announced the Academic Excellence Scholarship, the hall went quiet. "And this year's winner is Emma Carter." For a second, Emma thought she heard wrong. The audience clapped politely. Her teacher smiled proudly. She walked to the stage, her hands shaking, and received the certificate. From the back of the hall, Jessica rolled her eyes and whispered to her friend, "A scholarship? Big deal. She'll probably quit college after 1 year." Emma heard it but didn't react. She simply smiled and looked toward her mother. Linda Carter's eyes were full of tears and pride. That night, they celebrated at home with a small cake. "You did it, Emma," her mom said softly. Emma hugged her and whispered, "No, Mom. We did it." After her mother went to sleep, Emma stood by the window again, holding her scholarship letter in her hands. The moonlight shone on her face as she whispered, "This is just the beginning." But life, as always, had a way of testing her. The next few months were hard. Emma's mother's health worsened, and medical bills began piling up. Emma had to work after school cleaning tables at a diner, stacking shelves at the grocery store just to keep up. Sometimes she studied at midnight, her eyes heavy, her body exhausted. But every time she thought about giving up, she'd remember her mother's words, "Believe you can change your life." And she kept going. One rainy evening, while she was wiping tables at the diner, Jessica and her friends walked in, laughing. Jessica looked at Emma and smirked. "Wow, from top student to table cleaner. How's that scholarship going?" Emma stayed calm. She just said quietly, "It's going fine. Hard work never stops." Jessica looked confused for a moment, then shrugged and walked away. As the door closed behind them, Emma took a deep breath. Tears welled up in her eyes, not of sadness, but strength. When she got home that night, her mother was waiting up for her. "Emma, you're doing too much." Emma smiled gently. "I'm doing what I must." She hugged her mom tightly, whispering, "One day, I'll wear that white coat, Mom. I promise." The scene fades with Emma sitting by her small desk, writing in her diary. "They still laugh at me, but soon, they'll see. I will not stop. My dream is stronger than their hate." She closes the diary, turns off the light, and falls asleep exhausted, but filled with quiet fire. Years passed. The small, quiet girl who had been bullied at Jefferson High was no longer just a dreamer. Emma Carter had grown into a strong, determined young woman. Every hardship she had faced, every cruel word, every whispered laugh, every prank had built a fire inside her. College was hard. Emma had to work part-time to pay her tuition, cleaning classrooms and working nights at a local cafe. Sometimes she felt exhausted, sometimes lonely, but she never gave up. Every time she looked at her reflection, she saw the girl she once was, scared, small, and invisible, and she remembered the promise she made, "I will wear that white coat one day." Her professors noticed her dedication. One day, her biology professor said, "Emma, your dedication and knowledge are exceptional. You have what it takes to be an amazing doctor." Emma smiled, tired but proud. "Thank you, sir. I just want to help people." Slowly, Emma's world began to change. She learned how to care for patients, how to stay calm under pressure, and how to make quick decisions. Hospitals became her second home. Every long shift, every late-night study session, every sacrifice she made brought her closer to her dream. Outside the hospital, life wasn't easy. Emma's mother, Linda, became sicker over time. Emma had to balance work, study, and taking care of her mother. Some nights, she would fall asleep on the floor of her tiny apartment after finishing her assignments and helping her mom with medicine. But she never complained. Her friends at college noticed her strength. "Emma, you're incredible," one would say. "You faced so much and still keep going." Emma just smiled. Inside, she knew it wasn't about being incredible. It was about keeping a promise to herself, to her mother, and to the person she wanted to become. Finally, after years of hard work, exams, and sleepless nights, the day came. Emma stood in front of a large mirror in her tiny apartment. She held her white coat in her hands, the symbol of everything she had fought for. She took a deep breath and put it on. Dr. Emma Carter. For a moment, she touched the stethoscope around her neck and closed her eyes. She remembered the hallways of Jefferson High, the laughter, the milk spilled on her books, the diary she had written in for years. Every tear, every moment of pain, every doubt it had led her here. Her first day as a doctor was overwhelming. Patients looked at her with hope, colleagues observed her carefully, and the hospital buzzed with urgency. But Emma stayed calm. Her hands, once trembling with fear in high school, were steady now. Her voice, once soft and unsure, was confident and kind. One afternoon, as Emma was walking through the hospital corridor, a nurse handed her a new patient file. She looked down at it and froze. The name on the file read, Jessica Miller. Emma's heart skipped a beat. The girl who had humiliated her for years, the girl who had caused her so much pain now lay in her hospital. She was seriously injured in a car accident and needed urgent care. Memories rushed back: the cafeteria prank, the books thrown, the cruel words. Emma's hands trembled for a second. The nurse looked at her nervously. Dr. Carter, are you okay? Emma took a deep breath. Her face was calm, but inside, a storm of emotions raged. She reminded herself of her oath, to help, to heal, no matter what. Prepare the room for surgery, she said quietly. Her voice didn't shake. We're going to save her. In the operating room, as Emma scrubbed her hands, she remembered the small girl she once was, the girl who had been laughed at and bullied. She thought about the promise she made in her diary so many years ago. This was her chance to prove that strength wasn't about revenge. Strength was about kindness, courage, and professionalism. The surgery began. Every move she made was precise, every decision careful. The monitors beeped rhythmically, and the team followed her instructions. But the memory of Jessica's cruelty lingered in her mind, testing her focus. Emma took a deep breath and reminded herself, I am a doctor first. Everything else comes second. Hours passed. The tension in the room was almost unbearable. The team worked together under her guidance, each moment critical. Emma's eyes were sharp, her hands steady, her mind focused. And then, finally, the monitor stabilized. Jessica's vitals were steady. She had survived the surgery. Emma stepped back, exhausted but relieved. The team congratulated her quietly. She looked at Jessica, unconscious but alive, and for the first time, a wave of emotion washed over her: not anger, not revenge, but a quiet satisfaction. She had kept her promise. She had become Dr. Emma Carter. As she walked out of the operating room, she whispered to herself, the hardest battles are not against others, but against what we carry inside us. I chose kindness over hate, and today, it saved a life. The camera zoomed in on Emma's face, calm, determined, and shining with purpose. Her journey wasn't over, but this moment was proof: she had risen above her past, and nothing could stop her now. The hospital was quiet that night, except for the occasional beep of monitors and the soft footsteps of nurses. Emma Carter, now a confident and skilled doctor, walked briskly down the corridor, her white coat swaying slightly with each step. A new patient file had been placed on her desk earlier. She glanced at it and froze. Jessica Miller. The name made her stomach twist. The girl who had bullied her throughout high school, the girl who had made her life miserable, now lay in the hospital, badly injured after a car accident. Emma felt a rush of memories: the cafeteria prank, spilled milk, cruel laughter echoing in her ears. For a moment, her hands trembled. She thought about all the years of hurt, the tears she had shed, and the dreams she had fought to keep alive. But she shook her head. She reminded herself why she had worked so hard. Her oath as a doctor came first. Hatred had no place here. She walked to the nurse's station. "Prepare the patient for surgery," she said calmly. "We're going in now." As she entered the ICU room, Jessica lay unconscious on the bed, tubes and monitors attached. Her once confident face was pale and fragile. Emma felt a strange mix of emotions: anger, fear, and an unexpected hint of pity. A nurse whispered, "Dr. Carter, are you sure you're okay to operate?" Emma nodded. "Yes. Let's save her life." The operating room was tense. Nurses moved quickly, and the surgical team prepared for the procedure. Emma scrubbed her hands, her mind focused on every step. As she began the surgery, memories of her past flickered through her mind. The humiliation, the pranks, the endless laughter, but she didn't let it distract her. Every move she made was precise, every instruction clear. She had worked too hard, sacrificed too much, to let her past control her now. Halfway through the surgery, a complication arose. Jessica's heart rate dropped suddenly. Alarms blared. Emma's hands were steady, but her heart raced. She quickly assessed the situation. "Administer 1 milligram of epinephrine. Prepare the defibrillator. We cannot lose her now." The team followed her orders, moving swiftly. Sweat ran down Emma's face, but her eyes were sharp and determined. She remembered her mother's words from years ago: "Strength is not about being mean or tough. It's about doing what's right, even when it's hard." Minutes felt like hours. Jessica's heartbeat faltered again. The flat line on the monitor made everyone in the room hold their breath. Emma's mind raced, but she didn't panic. She pressed forward, calling out instructions to the team with calm authority. Finally, after tense moments that seemed impossible, the monitor beeped steadily. Jessica's heart stabilized. The crisis was over. Emma exhaled, her shoulders dropping slightly. She looked at Jessica's still unconscious form. For the first time, she allowed herself a quiet thought: "She's alive. I did it. I kept my promise not to hurt, but to heal." Hours later, Jessica was moved to the recovery room. Emma checked her vitals, making sure everything was stable. She watched over her patient, sitting quietly in the corner. When Jessica finally opened her eyes, she was weak and confused. "Where am I?" she whispered. Emma smiled softly. "You're in the hospital. You're safe now. I'm Dr. Carter." Jessica blinked, recognition slowly dawning. Her face paled. You're Emma." Emma nodded. "Yes. And I saved your life." For a moment, silence filled the room. Jessica's eyes filled with fear and guilt. I I don't deserve this," she whispered. Emma sat beside her calmly. "Maybe not. But forgiveness isn't about deserving. It's about choosing peace. And I choose peace." Jessica's lips trembled. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she looked at the girl she had tormented for years, now the woman who had just saved her life. Emma's heart felt heavy with emotion, but she stayed strong. She had come so far, faced so much pain, and finally proved to herself that strength was not about revenge. It was about compassion. That night, as Emma left the hospital, she paused by the window and looked at the stars. She whispered softly, "Sometimes, the hardest people to forgive are the ones we once hated the most. But mercy is the strongest power of all." The camera zoomed in on her calm, determined face, as the moonlight reflected off her white coat. She had faced her past, conquered her pain, and stayed true to herself. And in the next part, the story would reach its emotional peak, the moment where forgiveness and courage would finally heal both hearts. End of part 4. Next, part 5, Forgiveness is the Strongest Medicine, will bring the emotional climax, closure, and inspirational ending. The morning sun streamed softly through the hospital windows. The ICU was quiet except for the steady beep of monitors. Emma Carter sat by Jessica Miller's bedside, watching her patient slowly wake. Her mind wandered back to their school days, the bullying, the cruel laughter, the spilled milk, and yet, here she was, sitting quietly beside the girl who had made her life so difficult. Jessica's eyelids fluttered open. She looked around, confused, and finally noticed Emma. Her lips trembled. "Why, you saved me," she whispered, her voice weak and uncertain. Emma nodded, her face calm. "Yes, Jessica. You are alive because I chose to help, not hurt. That's what doctors do." Jessica's eyes widened, a mix of shock, guilt, and something she hadn't felt in years, humility. She tried to speak, but her voice cracked. I don't deserve this. After everything I did to you." Emma smiled softly. "Maybe not. But forgiveness isn't about who deserves it. It's about who chooses it. I choose peace. I choose to let go of the past." Tears welled up in Jessica's eyes. For the first time, she realized the weight of her actions, the pain she had caused Emma, the loneliness she had inflicted, the life lessons she had ignored. I'm so sorry," she whispered, choking back tears. "I was cruel. I was wrong." Emma reached out and gently placed her hand over Jessica's. "I know. And I forgive you. Not for your sake, but for mine. Holding on to anger only hurts me." The room was silent, filled with an emotion too deep for words. The girl who had once been invisible had risen, stronger and kinder than anyone could have imagined. And the girl who had been the source of so much pain had been given a second chance, a chance to heal, a chance to change. Days passed. Jessica slowly recovered. Emma continued to check her vitals, teach her how to regain strength, and offer words of encouragement. Over time, Jessica's pride melted away, replaced by genuine gratitude and respect. She looked at Emma not as a rival, not as a bully, but as someone who had shown her the power of kindness. One afternoon, Jessica asked quietly, "Can I start over? Can I be better?" Emma smiled. "Yes. Life gives us second chances. It's up to us what we do with them." As Jessica nodded, tears streaming down her face, Emma felt a sense of peace she had never known before. She had faced her past, confronted her pain, and chosen forgiveness over revenge. And in doing so, she had not only saved a life, she had also healed herself. Later that evening, Emma left the hospital room and stepped outside. The sky was painted with shades of pink and gold. The air was calm, filled with the soft hum of evening traffic and the distant chirping of birds. She looked up at the sky and whispered softly, almost to herself, "Sometimes the best revenge isn't hatred, it's kindness. Sometimes the strongest person is the one who forgives." Her phone buzzed, a message from her mother. "I'm so proud of you, Emma. You've become everything I knew you could be." Emma smiled, tears glistening in her eyes. She looked at her reflection in the hospital window, seeing not the shy, bullied girl of her past, but Dr. Emma Carter, a woman who had faced challenges, heartbreak, and cruelty, yet had emerged stronger, wiser, and full of compassion. Back in Jessica's room, the former bully sat up in bed, still weak but smiling. She looked at Emma with newfound respect. I hope one day I can be even a fraction of who you are." Emma reached out and gently squeezed her hand. "You can. Everyone has the power to change. It's never too late." And with that, Emma walked down the hospital corridor, her white coat swaying softly. She carried not just the knowledge of medicine, but the wisdom of life, that courage isn't measured by fights won or words shouted, but by the ability to rise above hate, to choose compassion, and to forgive. The camera pans up to the sky as Emma disappears into the hospital hallway, leaving behind a story of resilience, hope, and the enduring power of kindness. The screen fades to black with the words, "Never underestimate the one you once hurt. They might be the one who saves you." Forgiveness is the strongest medicine.